Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be in the world. Thank you for joining us for today's video. I'm joined by Lynn as usual. So good morning, Lynn.
Good morning.
She's here to keep me in check and make sure I do things properly. She may have some questions as we go along, we'll see. We are recently back from a family holiday in San Francisco. Had a fantastic time, absolutely wonderful. But it reminded me of the holiday season and how that may impact on people who are living with dementia. So I'm thinking there's quite a few things and quite a few issues that we need to think about when we are enjoying our holidays with people who are living with, cognitive change and going through that journey. And I know many people talk about this as holiday season comes along. Many doctors, many nurses, many practitioners, many specialists really focus on the holiday season. So it's something that we really need to think about, and how we actually engage and interact with people who are living with a cognitive change, and how that interaction and engagement impacts on them, but also the opportunity to observe any changes that we might see. And in addition to that, how does a holiday impact on that person's quality of life in the first place? Because, this may be a first holiday season for those guys with a neurocognitive change, with a diagnosis, and who are living with those symptoms and those challenges. But it may also be the first holiday that they are experiencing without their partner. So maybe their partner has passed since last holiday season. And of course, in the US, we have Thanksgiving coming up next week. And then, of course, we've got Christmas coming up in maybe 6 weeks' time or something like that. So this is an absolutely fantastic opportunity to engage and interact with the guys as much as we possibly can during family gatherings. But also think about how you need to structure the event, because it can be too rowdy, it could be too noisy, there could be too much things going on, too much sensory invasion. So really think about how that might impact on that individual when you're planning your Thanksgiving or Christmas or Boxing Day holidays or New Year. So that's one of the things I wanted to think about and talk about. So what about the opportunity to observe any changes? What is it that we might be able to see in changes in our older relatives? And it might be, we talked about the three things that we're concerned about when people may be experiencing a cognitive change. And of course, one of them is issues with short-term memory, immediate memory. The second thing you'd be looking for is the inability to follow a sequence, a usual sequence, something they've been used to forever. And you notice that they're struggling with that. And then the third one is not being able to recognize and understand that today is Wednesday, it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So time and space, disorientation in time and space and place. If you notice those three things, then it might be worth exploring that a little bit further with a neurologist. The other thing that is really important, I think, is really hear what people are saying. Listen attentively, but hear. And look for difficulties with speech and language. Look for people who are struggling to find a particular word that is out of the norm for them. So those are the things you would really be looking at. And those are the things that I want you to focus on. And of course, ensure that they have a really good time, and that interaction and engagement is key to all of that with the holiday season coming along. Now, recently, and I'm going to refer to some research that I've recently discovered, which has been published in Neuroscience, and it's about the impact of loneliness and how it can lead to premature death. So let me read a little bit of what this is about. Just read you the summary. So it's a study in the UK that used biobank data to highlight the deadly risks of social isolation. And it revealed that never being visited by friends or family is linked to a 39% increased risk of death. 39% increased risk of death. So while we're talking about being together as a family and enjoying each other's company and interacting and engaging, if you are aware of anybody who is on their own, anybody who is lonely over the holiday season, please try your very best to go and visit them, to go and spend some time with them, or even invite them in to your family season, your family holiday, because the interaction and the engagement is really important. And one of the things we've already touched on, or maybe we didn't and we will be doing at some point, is that one of the first things that happen to people when they get a diagnosis of a neurocognitive disorder, a change, a dementia type illness, is withdrawal into self. That happens a lot, but it also happens to people who are on their own. The world has got smaller and smaller, and as we age, our world does shrink more and more as older people are aware of this. So please do your very, very best to spend some time with those guys and make them feel invited, make them feel involved, and make them feel part of your family gathering. That would be an absolutely amazing thing to do. And I think it was Mother Teresa who said that the most I can't remember how she phrased it, but she talked about isolation and loneliness being one of the biggest diseases. So, she already had an insight into that. So this research, they analysed social interactions of over 450,000 people. And it found that objective measures of social interaction, like visits and group activities, are more strongly related to mortality than subjective feelings of loneliness. Notably, regular visits from friends, from family, from the community as a whole makes a really big difference and can really reduce that risk of early death. So really think about that. It would be fantastic for everybody to be involved in holidays, and it makes a difference to them. But obviously we can't always do that, but do what you can, and that'll make a difference. And I believe Lynn has a question now.
Well, I'll comment more. Talking about structure and routine, and let's say your routine in your family has always been to eat a certain menu, but you have to, going back on person-centered care to talk about that, and not forcing your relative who has a neurocognitive change to eat the same things as everyone, and we all have to eat at this certain time because we always do. I want to point out that you have to adapt what your family's routine might be or the menu to your loved one's needs because they've changed, and it's okay.
Yeah, flexibility is important, isn't it, with that? And we do always recommend structure in people's lives, and we always recommend a routine which really helps people who are experiencing a cognitive change. So absolutely, and I think the flexibility also has to be around the noise levels and the activity, and because sometimes big families, it gets rowdy, it gets loud, it gets noisy. it gets too much for me. So never mind people who are actually struggling, and of course some people who are living with a cognitive change, depending on the type of neurocognitive disorder they've got, may have sensory issues as well as part of that. So very important to think about that. Yeah.
And maybe have a quiet space or quiet time
Right.
in the home or wherever you're gathering.
Yeah, absolutely. People can go out into the garden, probably not so much in England at this time of year because it's probably raining and cold. But fortunately, where I live in Arizona, and opportunities to actually be able to go outside and get some fresh air and get some quietness and get some peace and solitude. And if we have to go outside and sit with that person for a while and listen to the birds and enjoy soaking up the sun and the blue skies. Sorry, you guys in England, that'll be alien to you, but I'm sure you've read about it in books.
Also, I think it's good to point out that these family gatherings are a good time to get the generations together and spend some quality time together, and that's really meaningful for both the younger and the older generation, regardless of the neurocognitive disorder.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because intergeneration stuff has a real good positive impact on people who are experiencing a cognitive change. So hanging out with younger kids, and especially babies, if there's new grandbabies in the family, then people living with a cognitive change benefit massively from that. That's a real positive for them, and it brings a smile. And anybody who's familiar with personal detractions will know and understand the difference between ill-being and well-being, and having a sense of well-being is all about those little changes that we see in people. A smile, somebody who is struggling with their current challenges. If we can get people to smile, so as we say in my practice, the whole point is to turn a frown into a smile. Once we've done that, we've done a fantastic job. We've made it happen. We've done good, and so we can often see that happening with intergenerational studies have shown that well-being can overcome ill-being through the introduction of relationships between older people and younger people, and conversations and learning about different things. So very, very good point, Lynn. Thank you. Okay. Any other questions that may have come through?
Well, what are some tips for recognizing that your loved one with the cognitive change might be having a hard time during the holidays? How can you tell that maybe they're uncomfortable, or maybe they can't put it into words, but maybe there's something you should recognize going on?
I think we really think about body language and observing body language, and if people are withdrawing into themselves or retracting from situations and circumstances and just not being involved and not communicating and looking sad and looking withdrawn and even tearful, those are the things we're kind of looking for. So it is the difference between ill-being, which includes all that withdrawal, sadness, lack of communication, lack of interaction, lack of engagement, versus well-being, which is the opposite, which is enjoying interaction, enjoying a conversation, smiling, and being feeling part of what's actually happening, whether it's playing a game or whether it's having a conversation or watching a movie or eating the meal, whatever it might be.
So how do you get around that, or how do you improve that situation? By engaging, obviously.
So that's the thing, that's the key thing. What we always have to do, and we've said this many times before, and I'm always saying it, is we have to meet the individual where they are on their journey. And of course, lability of mood is something that is common. So lability of mood meaning 1 minute I might be happy and the next minute I might be sad. And I might be laughing and then a few minutes later I might cry. The mood is up and down, up and down. So it's labile, it's a lability of mood. And if we're aware of that and we recognize that the person is in that space, the negative space, then let's try and engage and interact and bring them over to a positive space. And of course, we do that by trying to focus, not distracting, because the emotion that that person is experiencing at that time is something to address. So we don't ignore it and just distract them from it, but get in there and listen to what the individual has to say and use the conversation to acknowledge, embrace what that person's saying, and then move away to a more positive experience and discuss more positive memories and things like that.
Yeah.
So meet the person where they're at always and validate their feelings and emotions and enter their world.
Yeah. And if they're far along in the journey and maybe they don't recognize that it's Christmas Day or that it's Boxing Day or Thanksgiving or what that means, or that's okay. People get focused on correcting, reminding, but...
Right. And that's a really good point. That brings up another point, actually, Lynn, in that some people have had negative experiences around holidays and around Christmas. And there may be some trauma around those experiences. So another reason why people may withdraw into self and may try to avoid that, focusing on the fact that it's a holiday. But again, we really want to focus on that and address that issue. And the best way for people who are not doing the kind of job that I do, the best way for that is to just listen. Just let the person express whatever they wish to express and just listen. And of course, as Lynn said, as the journey progresses, communication may change. So we have to be aware that people's behavior is a form of communication. And so if they're unable to communicate their exact feelings and their emotions and not really be able to recognize why they feel that way, then we have to listen to them and we have to spotlight and we have to pick out certain things. When you're listening to somebody who are expressing a difficult emotion, and you don't need training or to be anybody particularly special to do this. You just listen, and our inbuilt empathy will recognize certain things that the person says, certain cues, certain body language. So make sure you tune into that, because you'll recognize and spotlight exactly what the issue is, and then you can address it and you can embrace it, and you can then help the person move through that difficult emotion and move into a more positive space. So that was a good point you brought up there. Thank you.
Okay. Also, you got me thinking about depression and the holidays and how they sometimes go together. And how do you as a loved one recognize that your loved one is sad versus depressed? How do you spot the difference, and what can you do to help them, and how do you know, I guess what I'm trying to say is, how do you know that it's temporary or not severe enough to be seen by a doctor? How do you know when it is time to see the doctor or make a recommendation? And also, furthermore, how would you bring that up with your loved one? How do you go to that conversation, or do you?
Okay, so the answer to the first part of that question just goes back to the ill-being versus well-being. So the signs of ill-being, as we mentioned, you know, the
Okay.
sadness, the crying, the withdrawal, the lack of interaction, engagement, the lack of communication, the lethargy, the, oh, I don't want to go, I don't want to be there, I don't want to do it, feeling like I don't want to get out of bed, or I don't want to leave the house, or I don't want to get dressed, I don't want to get washed, showered, changed. All those things point to ill-being and possible depression. Any of those things, and if anybody is ever concerned about their mood, then it is always advisable to go and see a medical provider. So go and see your doctor or your nurse practitioner and talk to them about that. It's always important whenever anybody is feeling down, feeling gloomy, feeling that life isn't worth living anymore, suicidal,
No reason to get out of bed.
no reason for living anymore, that has got to be a trip to visit your medical professional. And then we've got the opposite side of the thing, haven't we? We've got the well-being that we spoke about. And that's where we want to take the person into a well-being state. So if people are showing this kind of withdrawal at the dinner or at the event, then we notice that that's maybe depression, but there may be a chance of being able to move that person away from that space, that negative space, into a positive space by addressing their emotions, their feelings, listening to them, validating where they are, validating their belief system, and then embracing it and saying, come on, let's move into my space now, which is a positive space, and let's enjoy some food, and let's enjoy this game of
Gratitude.
Gratitude. Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Okay. So just to recap on that, stay alert, stay vigilant. If you notice any obvious changes to the person's cognitive health, memory, or even physical health, then you may need to have a conversation with them about how you feel and what they've noticed, and that it might be a good idea just to go and get a checkup and just make sure that everything's okay. And one of the difficult things there is actually getting the person to go. That is a many of us know that the big challenges, the key challenges, are getting somebody to actually go and see a doctor in the first place. And another challenge is when we're addressing people's driving abilities and having to deal with that situation, which is unfortunately a regular thing. And I think we may well do a video on that very soon about how do we manage that, how do we be proactive, how do we be reactive. So I think that's something we will address at some point through one of the videos. And I think that's it. I want everybody to have a fantastic Thanksgiving wherever you are, and I'm sure some people in the UK do Thanksgiving as well, because I'm sure there are some people from the US that live in the UK. I apologise for the weather. So thank you for joining us. As always, I would like you to share this YouTube video channel with all the people in your circle. No matter who you are, no matter how old you are, no matter where you go, no matter what you do, you will always know somebody who is living with a dementia type issue. So if you know that person, share this YouTube video channel. The more people we reach, the more people we educate, the more people we help. We currently have 212 subscribers, which in the world of YouTubers is nothing. But to me, it's amazing that 212 people have actually subscribed to the channel. And so it's valuable, and it means we continue doing Wednesday videos and helping as many people as we possibly can. So share the video, encourage people to subscribe. If you need to talk to us or contact us, please post something on the YouTube or visit our website, drdanielnightingale.com, where our contact details are. And be safe out there, enjoy each other, and I will see you all next week.
And kick the soda.
Absolutely. Sorry about that. I forgot about that. I forgot. So yeah, no soda. Get rid of the soda. Kick it into touch. Even if it's diet soda, say goodbye. Sayonara. Get rid of it. Drink tea and drink water. Lots of water and tea. And coffee. Have some coffee. That's a good thing to have. Just have one though in the morning.